In 2024, it takes a pretty amazing handgun to stand out, and the Daniel Defense H9 is pretty amazing. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and this is the Daniel Defense H9. Now, those of you who've been around for a while probably remember the old Hudson H9 that this is based off of. It takes a lot of styling cues from it and is very reminiscent of it. It shares features that that gun had as well, but it's not as quite nose heavy and droopy looking as the other one. And this one is actually well made, which the other unfortunately wasn't. So we're gonna take a closer look at this thing, but this is still going to be a first shots type video. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel because I will be comparing this gun to the Staccato C2 and the Glock 19 in a head-to-head kind of shoot-off to let you kind of see the three different price points and how the guns perform. But first, guys, a dad joke for you guys. 2024, dads, this is going to be our year, and I need you to dad harder than you ever have. What did Jay-Z call his wife before he got married? Fiance. With that said, this is a launch gun, meaning Daniel Defense sent this to me in order to make a video. Your timeline probably has several of these on here. SHOT Show 2024 is going on right now if you're watching this as it goes live. And I have no doubt that this handgun is going to be one of the bells of the ball at range day. So you're going to probably see a lot of people fawning over it. Those of you who do follow the channel know that I'm usually pretty even keeled. So it means a lot when I say like, I'm actually excited about this gun. I'm actually going to spend time carrying this gun into the foreseeable future to really understand how the gun performs because it's been so impressive so far. Not just how it shoots, but also how it carries. So let's talk about how it shoots, starting first and foremost. This is an ultra low bore axis gun, meaning that the place that your hand gets the mechanical advantage on the pistol is very close to the center line of the bore where the force comes straight back from the rounds firing. If you look how close that is, you can see right there that the trigger guard is right up underneath the barrel. The recoil spring is actually in front of the trigger guard, and that actually makes a difference. This gun doesn't hardly lift in recoil. It's incredibly steady in recoil. A lot of that's due to the low bore axis, but also the gun is insanely well balanced. Like if I take my hand away from the gun doesn't tip at all. It just stays right where it's put. It feels really, really well balanced, especially with a full loaded magazine in the gun. It just sits pretty much perfectly. The ergonomics on the pistol are, I would put a solid great, not excellent. There is a bit of blockiness across the front strap, but it manages it well enough. You don't notice it when you're shooting, but if you just pick it up and squeeze it, that is one thing that you'll probably notice. Playing into both performance and carry is the G10 grip scales on the side, which means that this will probably eventually have aftermarket grip options available. I'm not aware of any right now. That said, the pattern that comes on these, they did their homework on because it is grippy enough to not be terrible, but it's good enough to actually provide traction when you're going to shoot. The weight on this gun, unloaded, no magazine, is only about 26 ounces. Not a whole lot different from a polymer gun. It is a compact technically, but it's got a 4.3 inch barrel, which is basically like a 1911 commander length barrel. And I don't know what it is about it, but it feels more like a big gun than it does a compact, despite being roughly Glock 19 size. It's maybe just a little bit longer. The grip is very much a Goldilocks size. Now that said, the trigger reach isn't super short. The trigger reach, the experience of it is very much like, I would say, a medium curve trigger on like a 1911. It's not super short. Like holding the gun, it reminds me very much of the SIG P365 AXG Legion, but the trigger reach is a good bit longer than that. Now the trigger, and this is one of the things that makes it so shootable, is a sliding straight to the rear style trigger like you would see on a 192011, and there is a trigger safety. You can see that. That slack takes the trigger safety in and then you're on the wall. I can't get the trigger gauge to pull this well. Mine is pulling closer to 6 pounds, it says, but I don't believe it when I pull it because it feels much lighter than that. The trigger travel for the release there, super duper short on the over travel, and the reset similarly. Let's see if I can do that, show it to you guys. This reset is very short. So the trigger is a very shootable trigger. Even though I'm not a great iron shooter, I was having good luck putting out, pretty good respectable groups on this gun at 25 yards. I'm in the process of getting a dot that's worthy of this. I only have an RMR plate for it, and for a pistol this nice, I want a RMSC plate for it to put a EPS on it because this pistol's awesome and it deserves one of the best dots going. One thing that's interesting is the grip texture on the front and back strap are these little like ribbed lines that, don't tear you up or anything like that. There's no movement when you're locked in on the gun. Like those things absolutely hold you in place, and it's actually quite nice. The lines on the slide are very minimalist, very kind of like stealth looking, and the serrations are pretty usable. They're not super aggressive, but they're not just kind of in your face, and the roll marks for the Daniel H9 right there are very understated, and I kind of love that about it. Both times I had this gun out, it was when it was chilly. Last night at the indoor range, they had the air conditioning on and no heat going, so it was like in the 30s. This morning when I went out there, it was 19 degrees and the gun ran fine both times. I, however, barely survived and had to be resuscitated by a nap on the couch under a blanket. Running the gun rapidly at a static target at 10 yards, the gun was super controllable. It was doing big gun type stuff. I can't overstress how stable this gun is. It is like eyebrow-raisingly stable when you shoot this thing. And it doesn't have any sort of muzzle device. It just stays super flat while you do it. There's like no muzzle lift. It's awesome. Part of what makes this gun awesome is the way that it carries. Now, Daniel Defense also sent this out with a TXC holster for it. So there will be holsters hopefully on launch for this thing, and the gun carries brilliantly. The gun is thinner immediately than like your double stack Wonder 9, so it carries really nicely, but because the barrel is longer with that 4.3 inch barrel, when you put it down in your belt line, there's just more weight down below the belt line, so it's really, really stable, but it's really skinny. It prints well, it's easy to get a good grip on and draw. The grips, as I mentioned, don't tear up your stomach at all. It's just a really pleasant package to carry, and I think they're probably gonna sell a bazillion of these. So they're gonna release them, they're gonna come in stock and out of stock, and then it's gonna be tough to find these things because I think they've got a really good gun on their hands. Now, as far as the execution is concerned, it's a $1,300 gun. MSRP is $1,299, made in Georgia, which is awesome. But if you go in the gun store and you handle $1,200, $1,300 pistols, you handle them and you're just like, okay, this is kind of like a $900 pistol, but there's something, you know, a little bit different about it. Okay, I get it. If I handed you this gun, you would immediately put it in your mind in something like the Walther steel frame guns because it is that special. It just feels higher quality. You'd expect to pay more for it, something, you know, closer to the $2 mark, but it's still not. It's just $12.99. So even with the price tag that it's commanding, it still feels like a good value. It feels better put together than most guns that have the same price point. There was a bit of a break-in period on the pistol. The first about 2 magazines of the gun was, you know, it was just having a little bit of issues feeding as all the springs kind of took a set and everything was kind of getting to know each other. It was also really cold. We re-oiled the gun and made sure we were, you know, using big boy grips, and sure enough, the gun just got into it just fine. All it needed was just a tap to the back to get the round to go into chamber. But once we got that sorted out, it stopped being an issue. I will say that the sights hit a little bit more like combat sights. Basically, the green fiber pipe is where my holes are showing up on target. So that's not exactly where it's supposed to hit, so the sights are hitting a little bit low, but it's within an acceptable margin. So the gun runs like a full-size gun. It carries really, really comfortable. It carries like a compact, if not, you know, maybe a skinny compact. It's made in America. It handles recoil brilliantly. The trigger is a really cool design, very easy to pull straight to the rear. There's just not a lot more positive things I can say about the gun. It's awesome. Like I say, I really look forward to comparing this next to like the Glock 19 and the Staccato C2 because it's like $600 pistol, $1,300 pistol, $2,500 pistol, and see how they all shake out. But I suspect this thing is going to perform really, really well. Now, one carry pistol that I've done a video on in the past is the 6 Hour P365 AXG Legion. There's a video right here that you should check out if you haven't seen it already. Appreciate you guys. See you later.